Hi, welcome back to my channel. I make videos about motherhood, home and style, and my videos tend to have a bit of a cosy feel about them. So grab yourself a brew, get yourself sitting down, and let's get into these baby names. I'm going to do the Agatha Christie inspired girls' names first, but I will also do a boys list and I'll link that below, along with the other baby names playlist that I've done and a few other playlists that I think you might be interested in if you've stumbled across my videos. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, the first name on my list is Beryl. Beryl was a character in One to Buckle My Shoe. Beryl is one to watch as I think it will rise in popularity. It reminds me of these other sort of stablemate names like Mabel and Ethel and Betsy and Bessie. So I don't think Beryl will be too far behind with gaining in popularity. I think it's quite versatile with an L ending, which means it will probably fit with a lot of surnames too. And it's one of these sort of vintage throwback names, so I think it's got quite a lot going for it. And on 2017's list, it was number 2,925, meaning 8 babies were named to this last year. The next name on my list is Daphne. Daphne was a character in Evil Under the Sun, and I think it's shooting up the charts really. It's still outside of the top 100, but it's now fairly and squarely within the top 500 list. It's ranking at number 427, which means that 93 babies were named to this last year, but I think it's a real sophisticated name. I still think it's unusual but not unheard of, which is quite unlike the next name on my list, which is Tuppence. I don't think you can have an Agatha Christie inspired girls name list without this name, although I do think it's very much a Marmite sort of name. I don't imagine I would ever use it as a first name. I think it'd have to be quite brave to do so, but I think it would make a really unusual middle name. So Tuppence was a nickname for one of Agatha Christie's detectives, the main characters being Tommy and Tuppence Beresford. They featured in a series of short stories where they were sort of super sleuths together. So the name Tuppence is still unranked as of yet, and I think it's because it isn't the most wearable of names. But I do think it lends itself to being quite an unusual middle name. Let me know what you think of this name in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Can you imagine it being used as a middle name in the future? Let me know in the comments. The next name on my list is definitely more wearable and I think is a good alternative to Madeline or Maggie, and that name is Magdala. Magdala is definitely unusual, though I don't think it's unheard of, but surprisingly it's completely unranked at the moment. Magdala was a character in the Poirot novel, which was Peril at End House, and a similar sounding name, Magdalena, was also used in Hercule Poirot's Christmas. I think it lends itself to being shortened, so you could have Mags, Maggie, Magda. I think it's quite a strong, fierce sounding name, so a great sort of name to bestow upon a young girl. The next name on my list is another unranked name. It's unusual, but I think again it won't be unheard of, and that name is Letitia. Letitia was a character in the Jane Marple novel, which was Murder at the Vicarage, and I think this also lends itself to some unusual nicknames. You could have Letty, which would be 1,296 on the list, and 4 babies were named to this last year. Or another really unusual sort of pet name that you could take from this is Lettuce. Lettuce I think is going to divide opinion. People are going to love it or hate it, but it isn't spelled like the solid leaf. I think it would be quite a fun sort of family nickname if you wanted to use something that's a bit more sort of quirky and then have the sort of the serious sounding name Letitia as the longer form. Let me know what you think in the comments below of that. Another unusual Agatha Christie inspired name for girls is Genevieve. Genevieve was a character in the novel Lord Edgware Dies and is number 486 on the list, meaning 90 babies were named to this last year. Again, I think this is a really adaptable name. I think it's really feminine, it has lovely French roots, and it has really adaptable nicknames that you could use as well. So you have Ginny that you could use as a nickname, which is number 2,706. If you love the name Ginny and you're looking for an alternative longer name that isn't Virginia, then this could be it. I also love the nickname Vivi, which isn't ranked yet and is again another alternative to Vivian. I think it's a really beautiful name. If you're looking for an alternative to Charlotte, then why not use Carlotta? Carlotta was another character in Lord Edgware Dies and is currently number 2,341 on the list, which means 11 babies were named this last year. And again, I think is adaptable with short forms. You could use Carly, Carla, Lottie, Lotta, and again I think it will go with quite a lot of surnames. It's very wearable but unusual alternative to Charlotte. A really good retro vintage throwback name for you next, and that name is Thora. Thora is another unusual name. It's number 2,925 on the list, meaning 8 babies were named this last year. Thora was a character in the Poirot novel The ABC Murders, and I think is nice because it's so short. I quite like how punchy and strong it sounds, but I do like the fact that it's quite a retro throwback sort of name. If you love the name Mabel, or if you're quite into hipster names and you're looking for something more unusual, then why not use the name Hilda? Hilda featured as a character in Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot's Christmas. I can just imagine a real sort of cute, feisty girl being called this. The only sort of old lady connotations that you have to this name really is Hilda Ogden from Coronation Street, and I think people younger than me won't have those associations with this name, so I think it's definitely due a revival. Hilda's number 2,341 on the list, meaning 11 babies were named this last year, so I do think this is one to watch. Like Mabel rose up the charts quite quickly, I can imagine that Hilda's going to do the same, so if you like it, I would get in fast. Another name that's following this trajectory is Ethel. Ethel featured in the Agatha Christie novel And Then There Were None. 31 babies were named this last year, and it's number 1,105 on the list. So names like Mabel, Ethel, Hilda, Minnie, Betty, they're all starting to rise up the charts. So if you're looking for a vintage throwback name with great Agatha Christie associations, then this could be it. Yet another name with this sort of throwback vibe is the name Vera. Vera is 949 on the list, so again it's now fairly and squarely within the top 1,000 names, and has that same sort of feel as Hilda and Ethel and Betty and those sorts of names. So if you're into granny chic, then why not consider using Vera? Back to quite a long feminine sounding name here with a lovely heritage. That name is Rosamond. Rosamond was a character who featured in the Agatha Christie novel Evil Under the Sun, and reminds me of the name of Agatha Christie's daughter, which was Rosalind. Rosamond is number 2,502 on the list, meaning 10 babies were named this last year, and I think is a lovely alternative to Rosemary. It's a bit more unusual, but you can still have the wearable shortened form of Rosie or Rosa. A beautiful Italian sounding name for you next from the Agatha Christie novel Sparkling Cyanide. Lucilla isn't ranking yet, but it's a lovely alternative to Lucy or Lucia. I think it sounds lovely. I always think L sounding names always seem to have a real sing-song quality to them. They sound nice. Another unusual alternative to Rosemary or Rosamond or Rosalind would be the name Rosaline. Rosaline was a character in the Agatha Christie book Taken at the Flood. I think it's of Irish heritage and reminds me of the Irish name Roisin. Another great name with lots of different shortenings that's really adaptable is Felicity. Felicity was a character in the Jane Marple novel 450 from Paddington. It's number 102 on the list, so it's just shy of the top 100. I can see it rising still further, so I would get in there like a shot if you like it. And I think it's really adaptable. It could be shortened to Flissy, it could be shortened to Flick, it could be shortened to Lissy. I think it's a real stylish, classic take on a vintage throwback name. If you're on the lookout for a more way out Agatha Christie style name, then I've got a couple for you. I've got Ginger, who is a character in The Pale Horse, and that isn't even ranking yet. I love this name. I've featured it on my autumn baby names list, and I think I featured it on a food baby name list as well, which I'll link below. I just love this name for girls. I think it's such a great throwback name. I think it's got great heritage associations with Hollywood. You have Ginger Rogers as a great sort of namesake. I think a little girl could suit this name, and an adult could suit this name as well. I think it's just really unique but classy at the same time. You're never going to have that issue of having someone with the same name as you in the class either. Along that sort of food inspired sort of Agatha Christie name, you have the name Cherry. Cherry is number 1184 on the list, meaning 29 girls were named this last year. I first fell in love with the name Cherry when I stumbled across the blogger Cherry Menlove. It was her actual name, and I just thought it was the best name ever. It sounds like a burlesque name or a name from a Carrie Ann film. I absolutely love it. I do think you have to consider names and associations, but I also think if you have a sort of creative family, a creative household, then the chances are that you're going to have children that follow in a creative sort of vein like yourself. And so in an artistic or creative sort of field, I can imagine Cherry wouldn't look out of place at all. I'm going to whiz through the following names just because they're all featured in the same book. And that book is The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side, and that book is just littered with great names. You have Cherry, Marina, Lola, Margot, Dolly. They were all in that one novel, such great names. So Marina is 695 on the list. I think if you have links to the sea in some way or sea life, then Marina could be a nice way of building that in. I don't have the ranking for Lola, but I do think it's a beautiful sounding name and is a short form of Dolores if you were looking for the longer version of that. Margot is 156 on the list. Dolly is number 305 on the list, which is higher up than I expected it to be, and is another shortened version of Dolores if you wanted a longer, more serious sort of name for the birth certificate. And then this next book had quite a few great character names in there as well. Millicent, Valerie and Gretel, and those three characters were in the clocks. So Millicent is 709 on the list, which means 69 babies were named this last year, and you obviously have the nickname Millie that could come from that, and that's 1371 on the list, meaning 24 babies were named this last year. And another one of my favourites is the name Gretel. I love the Sound of Music, and the youngest child in The Sound of Music is called Gretel. It reminds me of Heidi. It has that sort of Alpine feel about it and is similar to the name Greta. Greta also features on my list, which is number 673 on the list, meaning 61 babies were named this last year, and Greta was a character in the novel Endless Night. There's two other great names from that book. There's Claudia and there's Fenella. Fenella is 2706 on the list. I fell in love with the name Fenella quite a long time ago. There's a radio news presenter called Fenella Fudge. What an amazing name. And so that name's been on my radar for quite a long time, but I have started to hear it here and there. And the final name on my list is a complete hidden gem of a name. I've only ever heard of it in an Agatha Christie book. It's really, really rare. It's obviously not ranked, and I think it just sounds very Alpine. The name is Clotilda. I think it's such a beautiful sounding name. It's so rare. I think it has great associations of other names. So for example, Tilda, you have the actress Tilda Swinton. Hilda sounds similar to this. You could have this full name Clotilda, but you could also use other names alongside that as well. I don't know offhand what the name means, but I'm going to have a quick look and I'll put it on here somewhere, just because I think it's so unusual. Sometimes with an unusual name, you instantly want to know what the name means and a bit more about it. So I'll pop that on the screen here for you. So they are my Agatha Christie inspired girls' names. Please hit subscribe for more baby name videos or more videos on motherhood, home and style. And don't forget to hit the little bell alongside the subscribe button so you're notified when I do the boys version of this video. And I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye!